Final Fantasy is one of the most beloved game franchises of all time. This video celebrates the 35th anniversary of the series, with the original Final Fantasy being released December 18th, 1987. I wanted to make a video celebrating the birthday of one of my all-time favorite game series, so I kicked around a lot of topics to choose from but landed on something sweet and simple. Today I'm going to tell you about 8 things I bet you didn't know about the very first Final Fantasy. Number 8. The original Final Fantasy set a lot of firsts in the RPG genre. One of those things being elemental attachments used in spells. You know, like ice, fire, lightning, and so forth. This is a mechanic that you're obviously familiar with, as it is still used in thousands of games spread across multiple genres to this day. Square didn't invent element mechanics, of course, it was actually inspired by Dungeons & Dragons. But Dungeons & Dragons inspired a lot of things in the RPG series. Number 7. There's an interesting note about theme music in the intro of the game, which if you never knew is called the Crystal Prelude. This iconic music used in the introduction was never intended to be the theme for the entire series. It must have really fit well because it's been used for different settings in almost every game in this series to date. I think at this point we can all agree, the Crystal Prelude is straight up iconic. Number 6. The game was released in Japan in 1987, and it was a painful 3 years before the game was released in the United States. While that may seem like a pretty long time to keep fans waiting, the first Final Fantasy wasn't released in Europe all the way until 2003. It was released for the PlayStation 1 under the title Final Fantasy Origins and was bundled in with the second game in the series as well. It was probably considered extremely dated by 2003 standards, considering Final Fantasy X was popular at that time. But at least the games were completely remastered with beautiful looking graphics. Still, players that wanted to play these games probably found a workaround way before 2003. But better late than never, I guess. Number 5. The most well-known Final Fantasy Easter egg is probably the hidden puzzle game. This puzzle can be accessed after your party acquires the ship. Depending on what console you're playing on, while on your new boat, pressing the button simultaneously somewhere between 22 and 55 times will reveal the secret game. The minigame consists of 15 number slides that you must get to line up numerically. I've always sucked at this game, and I actually think it's pretty challenging. In the original game for the NES, completing this puzzle only adds a measly 100 gil to your purse. But in some of the re-releases, the puzzle fetches a much higher reward. Number 4. Maybe Squaresoft knew they had a hit on their hands before the title's release, because Final Fantasy gets a little cocky. In the town of Elfheim, the graves of both Erdrick from Dragon Warrior and Link from The Legend of Zelda can be found. This suggests that maybe Square thought that their game was the cream of the crop and that its contenders were about to be put to rest. At the very least, it's a little tease. Either way, I found it a little amusing and definitely notable. Number 3. Upon release, not everything was perfect with Final Fantasy. The game was actually riddled with bugs and glitches. One spell that was made to reduce enemies' evasion actually increases it. And to top it all off, there are many items with special abilities that in reality have no effect at all. The Fire Sword doesn't deal fire damage, the Ice Sword doesn't deal ice damage, the Dragon Sword doesn't deal extra damage to dragons, and so on. By my counting, there are 10 of these broken items. This seems like a huge oversight, and you really have to wonder how it got past the production team. These bugs were later fixed in much later re-releases and remastered versions of the game, but by then the damage had been done. Number 2. The game was originally going to be called Fighting Fantasy, but had to be changed because that title was already copyrighted. The title had to be changed, and it was apparently very important that the game had to be stylized with the acronym FF, so Final Fantasy seemed like a great runner-up. What do you think? Which title do you think is better? Let us know in the comments below. No spoilers though, I think most of us are going to agree Final Fantasy is a far better title. Because it is. Number 1. This brings me to the last and what I think is the most interesting point about the OG Final Fantasy for the NES. Final Fantasy was actually going to be the last game created by Squaresoft before they planned on closing their doors permanently. Square was convinced at the time that an RPG game couldn't be successful, claiming that there was just no market for it. Square was eventually talked into the idea. Lo and behold, it wasn't a flop like they thought it would be at all. Quite the contrary, it was a huge hit followed by countless sequels, spin-offs, millions of dollars in revenue, making it the powerhouse series it's been for 3.5 decades. I think it's safe to say we're all glad Square took the chance on making this timeless classic. And that's our list of 8 things that you probably didn't know about the original Final Fantasy game. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I seriously need motivation to keep making videos like these. Are there any Final Fantasy I fun facts that I missed? What game would you like to see me cover next? Let us know in the comments below, and thank you all for watching.